Matt Carey, documentary editor at Deadline.com. We are in the Cannes studio for Deadline at the Cannes Film Festival with Raoul Peck, the Oscar-nominated filmmaker, and his new film is Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5. Anyone who's read the book 1984 knows where that came from. Enchanté, thank you for being with us here in Cannes.
Merci.
It's a return trip for you. You've been here many times. You were here last year with your film about the South African photographer Ernest Cole. Tell us about making a film about George Orwell. Some people mistakenly may think, oh, he's a writer from the mid-20th century and perhaps not relevant to today. No, we see in your film he's very relevant to today.
Absolutely, and first of all, it was a biggie. When you get access to all the rights about workers, body of work, especially Orwell, who have been not only prescient, but have laid the groundwork for many analyses that you can see today in the press and through scholars. And I knew it was hard not to be confronted with, but I find an entry in the way that he works and the man he became that I felt was close to what I also went through in terms of starting in the third world, because we know he started as a soldier when he was 18 in Burma. And his experience there was really atrocious, and I think that changed him forever.
Yes, it's a very profound part of the film where we see that Orwell rejected what very few people, of his background and class would have done. In other words, he talks very openly of that in the film of abusing ordinary Burmese people, of coolies of others, and yet many people wouldn't question that. He clearly did, and he saw that he was coming from an imperialistic system, and he fully rejected that and didn't simply become a writer, but he was in the field in the Spanish Civil War. I mean, this became his life.
Yeah, and most of all, that humbled him. He saw himself as a human being, and he started seeing the other as a human being. And he decided to work on it, because this is something you have to work on. When you leave your culture with ideas that, of imperium, ideas of superiority, and then you're confronted in a situation where you can either go with the flow and continue your authority on the other, or have a conscience and start reflecting and start working on you. And this is what Orwell have been doing basically all his life, confronting the beast and the beast in himself as well.
The beast, that's really quite a powerful way of putting it. I want to talk to you about the math, 2 + 2 = 5, whether it's the United States, Russia, India. There are many countries one could say, are we as people being asked to tally 2 + 2 and say it's 5 when we know it's 4?
Well, absolutely. That's what, unfortunately, politicians today try to do. It's like turning the things around and make you believe what they want you to swallow. And it's so easy. As a kid, you learn 2 + 2 = 4. So it's an automatic learning process, but they can make you unlearn it and make you see, how many fingers you see. And then you're confused. And you're confused by terror, by intimidation, by, attacking the law, attacking all the solid thing that you thought that you had around you. And that's very easy. And Orwell deconstruct that process.
Yes, and it strikes me as gaslighting on a mass scale, because it's basically politicians, the powerful, telling you what you have experienced, what you know to be true, that's not true.
Yeah.
My truth, this is what you will accept. And we see so many examples in your film. Certainly one of the most salient for an American audience is January 6th, where everyone saw with their own eyes what happened there, the violence against police officers, the attempt really to kill the Vice President of the United States and hang him up on the square. And yet we have this quote from Trump, as he put in the film, of, oh, it was a day of love. I mean, that's so Orwellian.
Yeah, there was love everywhere. And then you see those violence images of cops being trampled on, people being hospitalized after that, having a nervous breakdown, having depression, you know, whatever, you know, your partisan does or whatever, but at some point you need to acknowledge the human cost. It's not a game. People, you know, there is another line in the film that is most important. They said, well, people are for death penalty, but nobody wants to be the hangman. And basically this is about that too. You know, it's easy to talk, it's easy to pretend, but down in the reality, it's another piece.
And just before you came down to Cannes, we talked by Zoom, and you were saying, and wanted to underscore that this is not, it's not a film about Trump. I mean, yes, he's in there, he's an important part of it, but you have so many world leaders in there. We see Nigel Farage, we see Prime Minister Modi of India, and there's an interesting part with the military leader of Myanmar, which of course, back in Orwell's time was Burma. Why did you want to put that part into the film?
Because it's the origin for me, for Orwell as a human being. You know, as I was saying before, that's the moment where he broke a wall. He discovered there was something else on the other side. You know, Europe, the United States, mostly the Western world, always see the planet as them in the middle. You know, they are the one determining everything. They are the one that where the analysis starts. They are the ones saying, you're a good guy, you're a bad guy. But it's not like this on the planet. You know, every other country or continent see themselves as well as the center of the world. So Orwell basically went the other side and realized, in fact, England is, as he says as well, you know, it's just a small island, you know, and if we didn't invade India and all the other British colony, we would just be a small island eating potatoes and herring, you know, and then
right,
you have to think about that.
That the misery of others is required for the British to live very well.
Exactly.
I mean,
yes.
that's
and millions have died for that.
Yeah.
And people need to know on what are their privilege based. It's not based on, you know, local work alone. It's based on many inequalities, buying minerals from other countries and let the people there dying. So it's a lot of misery behind that.
And speaking of the extraction of minerals for the wealth and benefit of the West, particularly Belgium, but not just Belgium, the United States, we think of Congo where you lived as a child. You had to flee Haiti with your family because of the dictator Papadoc Duvalier.
Yeah.
So you grew up in that sort of dystopian dictatorship. Yeah. And you've lived in Berlin, you studied in Berlin and in France and the United States. But you're not one of these full-throated democracy as practiced in the West is a fantastic thing, and all of our problems are solved. You're very skeptical of the way in which politicians have used the word democracy to really implement a different kind of system.
Absolutely, and you know, democracy is not something you acquire once for all. It's something you fight for every day, and coming from a country that has numerous dictatorships. And by the way, dictatorship that were most of the time supported by the US administration. So we know the signs, we recognize them very early on. We know the price when you say free press or free speech, we know what it is. You know, and when you grow up with this, when hearing your parents whispering when they talk about certain subject, even as a kid, you say, there's something wrong there. Wow. And that's what is happening right now in America. There is this terror that nobody can express. But I had a writer who told me they were interviewing scholars and they didn't want even to give their name about certain discussion. That's where we are now. And we recognize those signs. I recognize them when I was in Congo, and I recognize them when I was in Haiti, and since I have been an adult. You know, those are signs you can't not see. And democracy means nothing as a word if you don't fight for it every day.
That's so important, I think, that message. What can you tell us about the release of the film? Any plans going forward? I think Neon is behind it.
Yes, and Neon is a great partner. They have been on this project from day one. They were our first investors, and they believed in the subject. And you know, they're gonna do their job. I'm just now here to help, but that's I let them do their job that they know how to do wonderfully.